43 people were supposed to die on the I-75 bridge over the Great Miami River on a Tuesday in June. I know that because my phone told me 12 hours before it happened. None of them died, because I called in a bomb threat from a truck stop payphone on Route 4, and as far as I know, the FBI is still trying to figure out who made that call. I need to go back to the beginning, though. If I don't lay this out in order, it sounds like the ramblings of someone who needs to be committed. Maybe it still will. But I need you to hear how it started, because the starting is what makes the rest of it make sense, or at least as close to sense as I can get. October 2024, late afternoon. I was in a checkout line at the Kroger on Wayne Avenue in Dayton, Ohio. Bag of frozen chicken thighs in one hand, 6-pack of store-brand ginger ale in the other. The woman in front of me was arguing with the cashier about a coupon. I was doing that thing you do where you stare at nothing and let your brain go slack and wait for the line to move. My phone went off in my pocket. Long vibration, not a text, not an email, the sustained kind, emergency alert format. I almost ignored it. I get flash flood watches and amber alerts like everybody else, and I clear most of them without reading past the header. I pulled it out and looked. Structure failure. Wayne Ave parking garage, level 3, partial collapse 4:40 p.m. Gray banner, bold text, triangle icon with the exclamation point, same format as a weather warning, no source agency listed, no instructions. No, this is a test. Just the statement sitting there on my lock screen. 4:12 p.m. 28 minutes. The Wayne Avenue parking garage was 3 blocks away. I'd parked there hundreds of times. It served the shops and offices on Wayne, including the dentist I'd been going to for 11 years. Old structure, probably late 70s. Concrete with exposed rebar on the upper decks where the sealant had cracked and nobody had bothered to fix it. Stairwells that smelled like mildew. Puddles on every level after it rained. I paid for my groceries and went to my car in the Kroger lot. Sat in the driver's seat, looked at the alert again. 4:18 now. I drove over. I can't fully explain why. Part of me wanted to see the garage standing there, boring and solid and grey, so I could dismiss the alert as junk and delete it and go home and put the chicken in the freezer. That's how I justified it to myself at the time. Verification. Common sense. I pulled onto Wayne Avenue. The garage was on the left. Squat, concrete, rectangle, 5 levels, top level open, cars moving in and out of the ground floor. A woman in a red coat heading toward the stairwell on the sidewalk side. 2 guys in construction vests leaning on a pickup truck, eating sandwiches. Tuesday afternoon. Nothing wrong with anything. I parked across the street, left the engine running. 4:31. The pigeons left. That's the detail that sticks with me more than any of it. A cluster of 15 or 20 pigeons that had been sitting on the 3rd level wall, all lifted at once and scattered in different directions. I'd seen those pigeons every time I went to the dentist. They lived on that garage. They don't all leave together for no reason. 4:36. A sound from inside the structure. A deep percussive snap, like someone cracking an enormous knuckle. I felt it through the steering wheel. I got out of the car, walked toward the entrance, shouted something. I don't remember the exact words. Get out maybe, or just move. The construction workers looked at me. The woman in the red coat had already gone inside. 4:38. A second sound. Louder. A grinding, shearing noise that went on for 2 or 3 seconds. Dust puffed out of the seams between the 2nd and 3rd levels on the east side. One of the construction guys dropped his sandwich and took a step backward. 4:40. A 40-foot section of the 3rd level dropped onto the 2nd. Concrete folded downward. Rebar snapped. Dust blew across the street and hit me in the face, and I couldn't see for about 5 seconds. Car alarms started going off, 5 or 6 of them layered on top of each other. When the dust thinned, I could see the woman in the red coat stumbling out of the stairwell, coughing, holding the arm of an older man I hadn't noticed going in. She had blood running from a cut above her eyebrow. He was cradling his left wrist. 5 people injured, no one killed. The section that went down had been mostly empty because it was a Tuesday, and the upper levels don't fill up on weekdays. If it had been Saturday during the farmers' market, this would be a different kind of story. I sat on the curb and watched the fire department work. Yellow tape, ambulances, a firefighter staring up at the broken edge of the third level with his head tilted like he was trying to read something. The alert was still on my phone. I deleted it. Drove home. Put the chicken in the freezer. Stood in the kitchen for a while. My name is Aaron Leff. I'm 36. I live alone in a second-floor apartment on Wilmington Avenue in Dayton. I install and service commercial HVAC systems for a company called Braddock Mechanical. White van during the week. 10-year-old Subaru on weekends. No wife, no kids. A brother, Cole, in Lexington, Kentucky. A mother in a memory care facility in Springfield. She stopped recognizing my voice around 2023, maybe a little before that. My father died in 2016 of a heart attack. He was mowing the lawn. He was 61. I'm nobody remarkable. Work orders, drive times, grocery runs, Sunday calls to a woman who doesn't know who's calling. That was my life. Whatever decided to use me didn't choose me for any quality I can identify. For about a week after the parking garage, I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe the city had flagged the structure as unstable and some automated system pushed a warning to nearby phones before the press release went out. The explanation had holes in it big enough to walk through, but it was rational, and rational was what I needed. November 9th. I was on a rooftop in Trotwood, servicing a package unit on a strip mall. Cold, windy, my fingers going numb around a wrench. My phone buzzed in my chest pocket. Same vibration. Long, heavy, deliberate. Gas line rupture, 1,000. 220. Gettysburg Ave explosion and fire, 6:15 p.m., 2 dead. The last two words changed everything. The parking garage alert didn't have a body count. This one did. 3:47 p.m., 2.5 hours. I climbed down and sat in my van, looked up the address. A small commercial building, single story, brick front, a barber shop and a tax preparation office sharing the space. I'd driven past it plenty of times. The obvious move was to call 911, but run that call through your head for a second. There's going to be a gas explosion at 1220 Gettysburg at 6:15 tonight. 2 people will die. You don't sound like a concerned citizen. You sound like the person who planted something. You sound like a suspect. I sat in the van for 20 minutes going back and forth with myself. Then I drove to Gettysburg Avenue. The barber shop was open. Through the window I could see the barber with a client. 50s, heavyset, grey beard, glasses on a chain. The tax office next door had a handwritten sign, closed, back at 5. A dog was tied to a parking meter outside a laundromat 2 doors down, chin on its paws. I went in. The barber looked up. Need a cut? No. Listen, I was walking past outside and I got a strong smell of gas coming from the side of your building. He frowned, put his clippers down, went to the side door, opened it, leaned out, came back. Don't smell anything. It was there a minute ago. Might be intermittent. I'd call the gas company if I were you. I've been here 18 years, man. I know what gas smells like. The client in the chair was looking at me. A guy in the waiting area had lowered his magazine. Just close early, I said, as a precaution. I got 2 more appointments. If I smell gas, I'll handle it. I left. Called the gas company emergency line from my car. Reported a suspected leak at the address. They said they'd send a tech. 5:20, a utility truck showed up. Tech in an orange vest went inside. 15 minutes later he came out, walked around the building with a handheld detector, got in his truck, left. Nothing found. 5:45. Barbershop still open. Barber sweeping up inside. A woman had gone into the tax office. The sign was off the door. The dog was gone. I went back in. The barber's jaw tightened when he saw me. You again. Please close. Get the woman next door out. I know how this looks. I know the gas company didn't find anything. Please just leave for an hour. Man, you gotta go. Nothing's wrong. The gas guy already checked. In 30 minutes. I caught myself, heard what I was about to say. A stranger standing in a small business telling the owner that something is going to happen at a specific time. The barber's hand was drifting toward his pocket. Toward his phone. "I'm leaving," I said. Back to the car. 5:51 on the dashboard. I called 911 from my cell, told the dispatcher there was a strong gas smell at 1220 Gettysburg. She asked my name. I hung up. Fire truck at 6:08. 2 firefighters went inside. A third went around the side with equipment. 6:14. The firefighter on the side of the building broke into a run toward the front door, yelling. The other 2 came out fast. One had the barber by the arm, the other had the tax office woman. 6:15. The building went. No fireball. A concussive thump I felt behind my sternum, and then the roof shifted and the windows blew out, and a wave of heat pushed across the street hard enough to rock my car. Brick buckled outward on the tax office side. Fire came up fast from the interior. Everyone was outside. The barber was on his knees on the sidewalk. The tax woman was being walked to the fire truck. One firefighter was bleeding from his hand. Nobody died. I sat in my car for a long time. I was shaking, and I was crying, and I couldn't have explained to you in that moment whether it was relief or terror or loneliness, or all 3 of them braided together into something I didn't have vocabulary for. The simplest way I can put it is that I had just spent 2.5 hours trying to save 2 strangers, and the only tool I had was a lie about a gas smell, and nobody believed me until it was almost too late. That does something to you. I don't know exactly what, but it does it fast. The cause was a corroded gas line under the building, ruptured at a joint. Gas pooled in the crawl space. Furnace pilot lit it off. Total loss. The barber was on the news that night. Said a firefighter pulled him out. Said somebody had phoned in a tip. He didn't know it was me. He'll never know. After that, I started keeping records. Spreadsheet on my laptop. Password protected. Thumb drive backup in the glove box. Every alert, word for word. The time it came in, the predicted time of the event, what I did, what actually happened. The alerts showed up on my lock screen like any emergency notification. Same gray banner, same icon, but there was no record of them in my notification settings. Not from an app, not from my carrier, not from any emergency system I could identify. They appeared. They sat on my screen for anywhere between 10 minutes and an hour. Then they vanished. Gone from my lock screen. Gone from my notification history, like they'd never existed. I tried screenshotting them. The screenshot would capture the lock screen fine, wallpaper, time, battery icon, all of it, but the alert text would be missing. Just blank space where it should have been. I bought a disposable camera at CVS and photographed my phone screen with the alert visible. When I got the prints back, the screen showed up clearly lit, clearly displaying something, but the text was a gray smudge, not blur, a smudge. Like the film had been rubbed with a thumb in exactly that spot. I could not prove any of this to anyone. Between October 2024 and the end of March 2025, I got 11 alerts. Some of them were small. A residential fire in Kettering, 1 dead. I knocked on the homeowner's door at 9:30 at night and fed him a line about his porch light flickering like a bad arc. Told him to kill the breaker. He did. Nothing happened at the predicted time. I sat on his street in my car until after midnight, heater off, watching the house through a fogging windshield. Some were bigger. A bridge on Route 35 with a support that was going to crack during morning rush. 3 dead. I called the highway patrol from a gas station payphone and reported debris on the deck. They closed a lane and cut the traffic flow. The support cracked right on time. 2 cars on the span when it shifted. Both drivers walked away. Nobody died. A house fire in Springfield. Christmas lights on an overloaded outlet. 2 dead. I knocked on the door at 11 p.m. A woman and her teenage son. I told them I'd seen sparks from the road. She unplugged the lights. Nothing happened. A water main break on 3rd Street that was going to wash out a retaining wall behind a daycare. 1 dead, a child. I called the daycare's after-hours emergency line and reported flooding in the parking lot. Maintenance found the leak. The city shut down the main. The wall held. Every time, what the phone predicted was worse than what actually happened. Because I showed up, because I lied, because I called, because I knocked. I didn't feel heroic about any of it. What I felt was more like the sensation you get when you're carrying something heavy up a staircase and you can feel your grip starting to go, but you can't put it down because there's nowhere to set it. You just keep climbing and hope your hands hold. I started missing work. I'd be on a roof or in a mechanical room, and the phone would buzz and I'd read the alert, and I'd have 3 hours or 6 hours or sometimes barely 90 minutes, and I'd tell my dispatcher there was a family emergency, and I'd leave. I did this 4 times in 2 months. Dale, my supervisor, brought me in. "What's going on, Aaron?" "My mom. She's been having bad days." He nodded. He's a decent guy. But he told me the attendance was a problem and I needed to get it sorted. I was sleeping in my clothes by that point, keys on the nightstand instead of the hook by the door, phone on my chest when I lay down so I wouldn't miss the vibration. I was eating out of gas stations and drive-thrus and sometimes just peanut butter on a spoon over the kitchen sink. My apartment was developing that specific smell that comes from dishes sitting in the sink too long and laundry piling up on the bedroom floor. "Cole called in February. My brother," he said. I sounded different. "You sound like you haven't slept in a month," is what he actually said. "I'm fine." "When's the last time you ate a meal that didn't come in a wrapper?" "Cole, I'm asking because I care, Aaron." "I know you are. I'm fine. I'll call you this weekend." I didn't call. The 7th alert came on February 18th. I was in the shower. The phone rattled on the counter so hard I heard it over the water. Structural collapse, Warren County Fairgrounds, exhibition hall, roof failure under snow, load 2:15 p.m., 14 dead. 14. Everything before that had been single digits. 1, 2, 3. Tragedies. I could head off with a phone call or a visit to a stranger's door. 14 dead at a single location was something else entirely. 9:40 a.m. I had 4.5 hours. I pulled clothes on over wet skin, drove south toward Lebanon. Snow since the night before, the heavy, wet kind. Roads were bad. The Subaru held, but I was gripping the wheel hard enough to leave marks. The Warren County Fairgrounds is off Route 48. Barns, grandstand, parking fields, and at the center, the exhibition hall. Big metal frame building with a curved roof. The kind of place you see at county fairs. I'd been there once as a kid. My dad took me to a tractor pull. I remember the smell of diesel and popcorn and him putting me on his shoulders so I could see over the crowd. 10:20. Maybe 40 cars in the lot, covered in snow. Inside, a craft fair was being set up. 30 or so people unpacking boxes, arranging tables, hanging signs. High ceiling, metal trusses, exposed ductwork, smelled like fresh paint and sawdust. I found the person in charge. Older woman, clipboard, name tag that said Carol. I asked about the building, about the roof, about the snow load. She told me the building was inspected yearly, told me it had been there since 1987, told me they'd had worse snow. I tried talking about accumulation rates, wet snow that packs instead of sliding. She looked at me like I was a problem she didn't have time for, and turned away. I went outside and called the Warren County Building Department, closed, training day. I called the fire department, non-emergency line. They said they'd pass my concern to the duty officer. 11:30. I drove to the fire station closest to the fairgrounds. A firefighter was eating lunch at a table in the apparatus bay. Did anyone check the exhibition hall roof? Chief talked to the fairgrounds manager. Building's rated for it. Have you seen how much wet snow is up there? Sir, are you an engineer? No, but building department can take a report when they're open. They're closed today. He shrugged, took another bite of his sandwich. He wasn't rude. He just didn't have a reason to believe me. Back at the fairgrounds, noon. The craft fair was opening to the public at 1. More cars arriving. A woman taping a banner to the building. Warren County Wintercraft Fair free admission. I went inside and found Carol at the entrance table. The roof is going to come down, I said. At about 2:15. I can't tell you how I know that. I'm asking you to get everyone out. She stared at me. Same look as the barber, same look as the firefighter. The look you give someone who's either dangerous or having a breakdown and you're trying to figure out which. I can't cancel this event because then I will. I walked to the center of the hall and raised my voice. Told the room the snow load was beyond the building's structural rating. Told them I'd contacted the fire department and the building department. Asked everyone to leave as a precaution. 30 faces. Silence. Then a man near the back, tall, bearded, flannel shirt, looked up at the ceiling. His wife, standing behind a table of candles, looked up too. "There is a lot of snow up there," she said. Quiet. To no one in particular. A younger woman near the wall said she'd been hearing popping sounds all morning. Thought it was the heaters. The bearded man started packing his boxes. His wife helped. The younger woman put on her coat. It moved through the room like a current. One table packing up, then two, then a cluster, then half the room. Carol stood next to me, watching her event collapse. "You've destroyed this for 60 vendors," she said. "How many are in the building right now?" She didn't answer. By 1:30 it was mostly empty. 3 holdouts refused to leave, 2 older men and a woman with quilts. One of the men told me this was hysteria and he'd paid for his table. At 1:55, a fire truck arrived. Carol had called about a disruptive individual. A lieutenant walked up to me in the parking lot. "You told these people the building was going to collapse?" "Yes." "On what basis?" I gave him the snow load argument, accumulation rates, truss deflection. He went inside and looked around, came back. "Don't see any visible distress. You won't see it until the joint lets go. It'll be sudden." He looked at the roof for a long time. 14 inches of smooth white snow curving over the metal. "I'll call for a structural engineer," he said. "Might be a while. Just keep people out for an hour, until 2:30. That's all I'm asking." Something in how I said it made him decide it was easier to agree than argue. He put up a barrier at the entrance, told the holdouts to exit. They came out. The quilt woman told me I owed her a day's wages. 2:15. It started with a sound like a long, slow exhale, the building settling or giving up. Then a fast series of cracks, one after another, and the center section of the roof folded inward. Metal panels buckled, trusses collapsed onto themselves. Snow came down in a white sheet into the space where, 90 minutes ago, 30 people had been arranging wreaths and honey jars. Dust and snow blew out the entrance and hit us in the parking lot. The fire lieutenant turned and looked at me. His face didn't show relief. It showed the thing that comes before an interrogation. "How'd you know?" he said. "I told you. Snow load." "You told me 2:15. Estimate, based on the rate of accumulation." He didn't believe me, but everyone was alive, and he had a collapsed building behind him and a long week of paperwork ahead, and he let me leave. I drove home, sat in my apartment, didn't turn on the lights. Something had shifted after the craft fair. The alerts before that had been problems I could handle alone. One phone call, one knock on a door, one careful lie. 14 people in a collapsing building was different. I'd had to stand in a room full of strangers and yell. I'd had to sound insane. I'd had to physically watch Carol's face as I dismantled her event. I'd had to argue with a fire lieutenant who thought I was either a lunatic or an arsonist. And the thing that settled into me that evening, sitting in my dark apartment, wasn't satisfaction. It was the understanding that this was going to keep getting bigger. The numbers had been climbing. 0 at the parking garage, 2 at the barber shop, 3 at the bridge, 14 at the craft fair. Whatever was sending the alerts wasn't just warning me. It was escalating. Each time I succeeded, the next one was larger. I got fired in March. Dale was apologetic about it. He said I was a good tech. He said the attendance was the issue and his hands were tied. I didn't argue. What was I going to tell him? That I missed the Beaver Creek job because I was in Xenia, convincing a school bus driver to reroute around a sinkhole that hadn't opened yet. I filed for unemployment. I had some savings, not much. The alerts kept coming, faster now. Through March and April, 19 of them. A warehouse fire in Middletown, predicted 8 dead. A retaining wall at a construction site in Troy, 6 dead. Carbon monoxide in a Fairborn apartment complex, 11 dead. I handled each one differently because I had to. The warehouse, I called the fire marshal's office and reported smoke coming from a vent on the side of the building. I gave a false name. They sent an engine. The crew found the fire in an electrical panel 20 minutes before it would have reached the chemical storage area. The retaining wall. I showed up at the construction site pretending to be a county inspector doing a spot check. I've got the kind of face that people believe when I'm wearing a hard hat and a reflective vest, both of which I bought at Home Depot that morning. I told the foreman the wall needed to be evacuated and buttressed, he argued. I showed him a crack in the footing that I'd noticed was real. He pulled his guys back. The wall came down 2 hours later. Nobody behind it. The Fairborn one was harder. Apartment complex, middle of the night. CO building up from a cracked heat exchanger in the basement. 11 people in 6 units. I pulled the fire alarm at 2A and left before anyone saw me. Everybody got out. The fire department found the CO levels high enough to be lethal within another hour. Each one different, each one requiring me to invent something new, be someone new, find the right lie for the right situation. Some days I was a county inspector, some days I was a concerned neighbor. Some days I was a maintenance worker who'd noticed a problem. Once I pretended to be a pizza delivery guy who'd noticed a smell in the hallway. The lies got easier to tell. That bothered me. Not because I felt guilty about lying to save people, but because I could feel how naturally it was coming to me now. This ability to walk up to a stranger and say something that wasn't true with a steady voice and a straight face. And I couldn't tell anymore where the lying for good reasons ended and the lying as a reflex began. I wasn't eating much. Gas station stuff, mostly. Peanut butter, crackers from the vending machine at the laundromat. I dropped weight fast. My clothes started hanging on me in a way that made me look like I was wearing someone else's wardrobe. My apartment was a mess. I won't describe it in detail. You've seen apartments that belong to people who've stopped taking care of themselves. Dishes, laundry, surfaces that haven't been wiped down. That specific stillness that settles over a space when the person living there is only using it as a place to wait between emergencies. I stopped visiting my mother. The facility called twice. I didn't call back. I told myself it didn't matter because she didn't know who I was. That was true. It was also the kind of truth you use as a wall to keep out the part of yourself that still cares about things you've stopped doing. Cole kept trying, called, texted. I'd reply with short messages. Busy. Fine. We'll call soon. I meant to call. Every time I typed that, I genuinely meant it. But then the phone would buzz, and there would be a new alert, and I'd be out the door and driving to some address, and the call to Cole would slide down the list until it fell off entirely. In May, the alert that came in wasn't like the others. 6 a.m., Wednesday. I was sitting on the edge of my bed because I'd given up pretending I was going to sleep. Vehicle collision route, 35. Eastbound mile marker, 22, 340p. M1 dead. Cole Leff, 33. Lexington, Kaiwai. I held the phone in both hands and read it again and read it again. Cole doesn't drive to Ohio. He lives in Lexington. He has no reason to be on Route 35. But the phone has never been wrong about the event. Never about the time, or the place, or the mechanism. The body count, yes, I've changed that. But the event itself has always happened exactly as described. I called Cole. Voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. Texted him. Waited. Called a third time. He picked up. Aaron, what time is it? Where are you right now? I'm in bed. It's 6 in the... Are you driving to Ohio today? Pause. What? Are you driving to Ohio today? Yes or no? No, I'm not. What the hell is going on? Do not come to Ohio today. Do not get on Route 35. Stay in Lexington. Stay home. Aaron, talk to me. What is this? Promise me, Cole. You're freaking me out. Promise me. I could hear him sitting up, sheets moving, the creak of his bed frame. Okay, I promise. I'm not going anywhere. But Aaron, seriously. Thank you. I have to go. Wait. I hung up, got in the car, drove to Route 35, Mile marker 22. Parked on the shoulder between Xenia and Jamestown. 2 lanes each way. Flat. Farm fields on both sides going out to the horizon. Nothing special about the location. No blind curve. No construction. No obvious hazard. Just a mile marker and asphalt and sky. I sat there from 7:30 inches the morning. I watched every car. I watched for a silver Honda Civic with Kentucky plates. I watched the clock. 3:40 p.m. A red pickup heading eastbound crossed the center line. A delivery van coming westbound hit it head-on. The sound was bad. Metal tearing, glass shattering, a heavy crunch that you feel in your chest. The pickup spun into the far ditch. The van jackknifed across both eastbound lanes. I ran to them. Van driver was pinned, conscious, bleeding from the nose. I told him not to move and ran to the pickup. Young guy, mid-20s, landscaping company shirt. Unconscious, but breathing. Called 911. Waited. Both lived. The kid had a broken leg. The van driver needed surgery but pulled through. Cole wasn't there. The accident happened anyway, at the exact time, at the exact spot. But Cole wasn't in it. If he had been, in his smaller car, at that speed, the physics would have been different. He would have been the one who didn't walk away. I stood on the shoulder of Route 35 afterward, and this is the part that's hard to explain, because the realization didn't come all at once. It came in pieces over the next few days, and I'm going to compress it here because that's the only way to communicate it. The phone had named my brother. Every other alert had been anonymous. A location, a time, a casualty count, never a name. This time, it gave me a name. It made it personal. And the reason it made it personal, the reason I believe it did that, is because the phone was training me. It had been training me from the beginning. Small disasters first, then bigger ones. Then one with a number that forced me to stand in a room and scream. And then one with my brother's name on it to make sure I understood that I couldn't stop. That I wouldn't stop. That I was in this completely and there was no version of my life where I could ignore the phone and go back to servicing air conditioners and calling Cole on weekends. The phone had found the one thing I would never risk, and it showed me what would happen if I hesitated. That same night, 9 p.m., I was back in my apartment, sitting at the kitchen table, phone face down in front of me. I hadn't eaten all day. I hadn't turned on the lights. I was thinking about the fact that the alerts were escalating and that each success made the next one harder and that eventually the phone was going to give me something I couldn't fix with a lie and a phone call. The phone buzzed. I didn't pick it up. I sat there and listened to the refrigerator and the faint sound of traffic on Wilmington Avenue, and I thought about what it would mean to leave it on the table, to go to bed, to let the alert expire, to find out in the morning whether the world was worse because I chose to sleep. An hour passed. I picked it up. Apartment fire, 6:14. Wilmington Avapt, 7 electrical fault, 2:20 a.m. 3, dead. My building, my address. Apartment 7 is on the 3rd floor, directly above my unit. I'd heard the people up there through my ceiling for months. Footsteps, TV at night. A kid's voice sometimes, muffled, high-pitched. A pan dropped once that made me jump. 3 dead. 2:20 a.m. 4 hours. I went upstairs, knocked on 7. A woman opened the door. Around 30, dark hair pulled back, wearing scrubs, maybe about to leave for a night shift. Behind her I could see a small living room. A man asleep on the couch, a coloring book on the coffee table, crayons scattered next to it. I told her I was her downstairs neighbor. I told her I'd smelled something electrical in the walls, like burning insulation. Could she check her outlets, see if any were warm? She checked the hallway outlet, touched the faceplate. "Yeah," she said. "That's warm." "Kitchen too." She checked. "Warm." I told her to unplug everything on those circuits and flip the breakers. She did. Her husband woke up, groggy, confused. She explained. He looked at me standing in his doorway with the wary expression of a man who's been woken up by a stranger's concern and doesn't know yet whether to be grateful or annoyed. I told them to call the landlord's emergency line and get an electrician out tonight. She called, answering service. Someone would get back to them. I went downstairs, sat at my table, waited. Midnight, no callback. I went back up. The husband answered. Breakers are off. We're good. Get some sleep. Nobody called you back? No. It's an old building, man. Wiring's always been weird. We're fine. Just keep those breakers off tonight, please. He looked at me. Then he nodded and closed the door. I went back to my apartment and sat in the dark and stared at the ceiling above me, where 3 people were sleeping in a unit with corroded wiring in the walls, and I waited. 2:20 a.m. A soft pop from the wall behind my kitchen, then a crackling inside the wall cavity, then the hallway smoke detector outside my door going off. I was in the hallway in seconds, smoke coming from a vent near the ceiling, burning plastic smell. I pulled the building fire alarm and ran floor to floor banging on doors. The woman from 7 opened her door fast. She'd been awake. The husband came out carrying a girl, about 4, face pressed into his neck, not fully awake. The coloring book kid. Everyone got out. Fire department, 8 minutes. They found it in the wall, a junction box between the 2nd and 3rd floors. Corroded wiring, arced, and caught the insulation. 3 dead, the alert had said. 0 dead. The building went into repairs. I ended up in a motel off I-75. Duffel bag, vending machine dinners, checking my phone compulsively. The alerts kept coming. And here is where I have to tell you about the thing that I've been building toward since I started talking about the I-75 bridge. The numbers weren't just climbing, they were accelerating. Through May and June, the predicted casualty counts went 6, 2, 15, 8, 22, 3, 31. You notice that? It wasn't a clean upward line. Sometimes a small one would come in between the large ones. 2 dead at a residential propane leak in Troy, sandwiched between 15 at a school gymnasium roof failure and 8 at a nursing home gas line rupture. The small ones were almost worse because they felt like rest stops. Like the phone was giving me an easy one so I'd have the energy for the next big one. The gymnasium was the one that almost broke me. Not because of the number, because of the context. A middle school basketball practice. 15 kids and a coach. The roof had a stress fracture in a truss that had been missed during inspection. I drove 40 minutes, walked into the school office, told them I was from the county building inspector's office, and requested an immediate evaluation of the gymnasium roof. The secretary was skeptical. I was wearing khakis and a collared shirt I'd bought at Goodwill that morning specifically for this. I had a clipboard. I had a fake business card I'd printed at the library. She called the principal. The principal came down. He was in his 50s, glasses, tired eyes. "We don't have any inspection scheduled," he said. "It's a follow-up to a concern flagged in the annual review. We're spot-checking structures with curved metal roofing in the county after the Warren County Fairgrounds incident." That was the first time I used the fairgrounds collapse as leverage. It worked. The principal knew about it. Everyone in the area knew about it. He sent someone to the gymnasium to check the roof, while I stood in his office and answered questions I was making up answers to in real time. They found the stress fracture. Not because I told them where to look, because once someone with a flashlight got up on a ladder and actually examined the trusses, it was visible. A crack running along a weld joint, hairline, easy to miss in a routine walkthrough, impossible to miss once you were looking for it. Practice was cancelled. The gym was closed for repairs. 15 kids went home and complained to their parents about missing basketball, and none of them will ever know that a man in Goodwill khakis talked his way into their school with a fake business card because his phone told him they were going to die at 4:30 on a Thursday. That night I sat in the motel parking lot and threw up in a storm drain, not from illness, from the accumulated weight of it, the lying, the constant invention, the driving, the not sleeping, the phone buzzing at 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. or midnight and the immediate adrenaline dump, the scramble to read the alert, the calculation of how much time I had and how far I had to drive, and what lie I was going to tell this time. I weighed 150 pounds. I had a tremor in my hands that wouldn't stop. My left eyelid twitched constantly. I was showering every 2 or 3 days. I'd catch my reflection in the motel bathroom mirror and see someone I used to know but couldn't quite place, like a neighbor from a previous apartment. Then, June, the bridge. Bridge collapse. I-75 southbound Great Miami River crossing, 11:30 a.m. 43 dead. I've already told you about this one, the payphone, the bomb threat, the bridge closing, the bolts shearing at 11:30, the south span dropping 14 inches with no one on it. What I haven't told you is what happened after. I went back to the motel. I turned on the news. I watched the FBI walking the bridge, and while I was watching, my phone buzzed again. Not an alert, a text from Cole. Saw the I-75 bridge thing on the news. You okay? That's near you. I stared at the text for a long time. Then I typed, I'm fine. Wasn't near it. He replied, good. Call me when you get a chance. Miss you. I put the phone down. I lay on the motel bed and looked at the ceiling, and I thought about what Cole would think if he knew. If he knew about the phone, the alerts, the lies, the barbershop, the craft fair, the gymnasium, the bridge. If he knew his brother had been living in a motel for weeks, spending every day driving to disaster sites, impersonating inspectors, calling in false reports, growing thinner and less recognizable by the week. He'd think I was sick. He'd think I was having a breakdown. He'd want me to see someone. And the worst part is that from the outside, from any rational perspective, he'd be right. A man who believes his phone predicts disasters and drives around trying to prevent them sounds exactly like a man who needs professional help. The difference is that I have a spreadsheet with 19 entries, each one time-stamped, each one accurate, each one corresponding to a real event that really happened at the time and place the phone said it would. I have a log of every intervention and every outcome. The data is real, the pattern is real, the phone is real. But the spreadsheet is on a laptop in a motel room, and the alerts are invisible, and the proof dissolves every time I try to capture it, and nobody will ever see what I've seen or know what I know. The alerts stopped on July 14th. I woke up, checked the phone, nothing. Waited all day, nothing. Next day, nothing. A week passed. I checked the phone every 15 minutes. I kept it charged at all times. I slept with it on my chest. Nothing. 2 weeks, a month, nothing. I want to describe what that silence was like, but I keep reaching for comparisons and none of them are right. It wasn't like losing a job or a relationship. It wasn't grief, exactly. It was more like the moment after a loud machine you've been standing next to for months finally shuts off, and the silence is so total that it feels louder than the noise was. Your ears ring. Your body is still braced for the vibration. You keep flinching at sounds that aren't there. I would feel my phone buzz in my pocket and grab it, and there would be nothing. Phantom vibrations. My nervous system was so conditioned to the alerts that it was generating them on its own. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., certain I'd missed one, heart slamming, phone in my hands, before I was fully conscious, screen blank. And underneath the phantom alerts, underneath the conditioned flinching, there was something worse. The knowledge that disasters were still happening. The news kept running. Fires, collapses, accidents, failures, every day, all over the region. And I had no way to know which ones I could have prevented. No way to know if the phone would have warned me. No way to know if the count was 2 or 8 or 43. Before the phone, I didn't know I could save people. I lived in the same ignorance as everyone else, the comfortable ignorance that lets you hear a siren in the distance and feel a brief pang and then go back to your dinner. The phone took that ignorance away, and then it took itself away. But it didn't give the ignorance back. I moved into my apartment again in August. Fresh paint, new drywall. Apartment 7 was empty. The family had moved out. I never learned their names. I got a job at a distribution center off I-70. Night shift, warehouse work, moving boxes from conveyor belts to pallets, back brace, steel toes, earbuds playing podcasts I didn't listen to. My body did the work while my mind sat in a room somewhere else, waiting by a phone that didn't ring. Cole drove up from Lexington in September, showed up at my door without calling. I opened it and watched his face go through several things at once. He looked at me for a long time before he spoke. Jesus, Aaron. I'm fine. When did you last eat a real meal? I eat. You look like you've been sick for 6 months. He came in, looked at the apartment, the bare counters, the fridge with a bottle of ketchup and a jar of pickles and nothing else. The single plate in the dish rack. He went into the bedroom and looked at the unmade bed and the pile of clothes on the floor and came back out and sat at the kitchen table and put his hands flat on the surface and looked at me. Talk to me. I sat across from him. I told him about losing the HVAC job, about the money being tight, about going through a rough stretch. You called me in May, he said, at 6 in the morning, told me not to drive to Ohio, begged me. I've never heard you like that. I had a bad feeling. There was a wreck on Route 35 that day, mile marker 22, 2 vehicles. I saw it on the Dayton News. That's exactly where you told me not to go. Weird coincidence. He just looked at me. Cole has this thing where he doesn't argue. He just holds eye contact and waits for you to hear yourself. Something is wrong, Aaron. I don't know what it is, but this isn't a rough stretch. This is something else. I need time. You need help. I need time, Cole. He stayed through the weekend, filled the fridge, did 4 loads of laundry, called Mom's facility, and set up my visit schedule. Sat on the couch and watched basketball with the volume low and didn't ask me any more questions. He was just there, a body in the apartment, another person breathing in the same rooms. After he left, I stood at the kitchen table and looked at my phone, picked it up, turned it over, looked at the screen, wallpaper, clock, battery at 63%, no notifications. It was just a phone. That was 8 months ago. The alerts haven't come back. I still check. Every morning, I wake up, reach for the phone, look at the screen. I still sleep with it on my chest. I still feel the phantom buzz several times a week, less than before, but still enough to jolt me, still enough to make my hands shake for a few seconds while I confirm that the screen is blank. I've started eating more. I'm back up to about 160. Cole comes up once a month now. We don't talk about the phone or the alerts or May. We watch games. We order pizza. He tells me about his job and a woman he's been seeing. I tell him the warehouse is fine. It is fine. It's a building full of boxes and conveyor belts and people wearing earbuds, and it asks nothing of me except that I move things from one place to another for 8 hours and go home. I've been back to see my mother twice. She doesn't know me. She smiles when I come in because she smiles at everyone. The second time I visited, she called me David, which was my father's name. I let her. I drive past the Wayne Avenue lot sometimes. It's a surface parking lot now. Just asphalt and painted lines. No garage, no pigeons. I drive past Gettysburg Avenue where the barber shop was. Laundromat there now. I don't drive to mile marker 22 anymore. I did for a while. Sat on the shoulder and watched traffic. But I stopped in November because I realized I was waiting for something. And waiting for something you can't control is just a slower way of falling apart. Last week I was at the Kroger, checkout line. I had a bag of frozen chicken thighs and a 6-pack of ginger ale, and I can tell you that I noticed the parallel, and it didn't feel poetic. It felt like standing in a room where something bad happened, and the room has been cleaned and repainted, but you can still feel it in the air. My phone buzzed. Long vibration. My hand went to my pocket so fast I knocked a can of ginger ale off the belt. It hit the floor and rolled under the conveyor. The cashier looked at me. The woman behind me took a step back. Amber alert. A real one. Missing child in Clark County. Standard format. Standard source. Standard text. A normal alert from a normal system. I stood there, holding my phone and reading it, and the thing I felt wasn't disappointment exactly. It was the absence of something. Like reaching for a step that isn't there. For less than a second, I had expected the gray banner and the bold text and the location and the time and the body count. I had expected the assignment. I wanted it back. For less than a second, I wanted it back. That's the thing I haven't been able to say to Cole or to anyone. That part of me misses it. Not the exhaustion, not the lying, Not the weight loss or the isolation or the phantom buzzing or the FBI, but the certainty, the knowing exactly where to go and exactly when to be there and exactly what to do. The knowledge that I was the difference, that my presence at a specific location at a specific time was the only thing between a number and a zero. I don't know what the phone was. I don't know where the alerts came from or why they chose me or why they stopped. I don't know if someone else is getting them now, some other person in some other city, driving to bridges and barbershops and school gymnasiums, losing weight, losing sleep, losing the parts of themselves that don't serve the function. I don't know if the phone will start again. Some mornings I wake up and I'm certain it will, and some mornings I'm certain it won't, and I can't tell which certainty scares me more. What I do know is that the world is full of structures with hairline fractures in their welds, gas lines corroding in crawl spaces, junction boxes with wiring that's one bad night away from arcing, bridges with bolts that are slowly shearing under loads they were never designed to carry. And every single day, people walk into those buildings and over those bridges and past those gas lines, and none of them know. None of them can know. That's the deal. That's the contract of being alive. You walk through the world, trusting that the ceiling will hold. I used to trust that. I used to walk into a parking garage and think about whether I had quarters for the meter, not about whether the third level was going to drop onto the second. The phone took that away from me. It showed me how thin the membrane is between a normal Tuesday and a catastrophe. It showed me the math, and now I can't unsee it. I'm sitting at my kitchen table. The phone is in front of me, screen down. The apartment is quiet. The ceiling above me is intact. The wiring in the walls is new. I'm going to finish this and put the phone in my pocket and drive to the warehouse and move boxes for 8 hours and drive home and check the news and check my phone and go to bed. And tomorrow morning, I'll check again.